Imagine driving through a rain-soaked city at 2:17 a.m., thinking you're just finishing your shift, only to realize the person in your back seat might not be human at all. Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing wonderful today. Tonight, I want to share a story that will make you rethink ever taking a late-night shift. It was a cold, rainy Tuesday, and the city felt unusually heavy. I was exhausted, ready to head home, when my clock hit exactly 2:17 a.m. That's when I saw her standing on the corner, a pale woman in a thin dress, completely soaked but not shivering. I didn't know then that opening my door for her would be the biggest mistake of my life. As she sat down, the air inside the cab turned freezing cold. I tried to catch her eye in the rearview mirror, but she just stared straight ahead, her face partially hidden by damp strands of dark hair. She gave me an address I didn't recognize, but I figured it was just some new development on the outskirts of the city. The sound of the rain against the roof was deafening, filling the heavy silence between us. I tried to make small talk, but she remained motionless, like a statue of ice. About 10 minutes into the drive, my GPS started acting possessed. The screen flickered violently before the blue line veered off into a gray void. Suddenly, the robotic voice was telling me to turn onto streets that simply weren't on any map I'd ever seen before. The familiar neon lights of the city faded into a dense, unnatural fog that seemed to swallow the headlights. My heart began to race as the buildings transformed into skeletal structures. I looked back, but she was still staring. The silence in the car became heavy, almost physical, pressing against my chest. Every time I glanced at the mirror, her reflection seemed to blur or shift slightly, as if she wasn't quite solid in this world. I felt this overwhelming sense of being watched, not just by her, but by the darkness outside the windows. The rain stopped abruptly, leaving a silence so profound it felt like the world had ceased to exist. I was alone on a road to nowhere with a passenger who felt like a shadow. Eventually, the GPS announced we had arrived at our destination. It was a desolate, overgrown field with a single, rusted gate standing in the middle of nowhere. There were no houses, no lights, just the smell of damp earth and old rot. I turned around to tell her we were here, but my breath hitched in my throat. The back door was shut tight, the child locks were engaged, yet the seat where she had been sitting was empty. My passenger had vanished into thin air while the car was moving. Panic surged through me like an electric shock. I scrambled out of the car, heart pounding against my ribs, thinking maybe she had fallen out. But the ground was untouched, and there were no footprints in the mud. When I climbed back into the driver's seat, I noticed a damp patch on the upholstery exactly where she had been sitting. It wasn't just water. It smelled like stagnant pond water and old perfume. My hands were shaking so hard, I could barely grip the wheel as I tried to make sense. I drove away as fast as my car would allow, but the nightmare wasn't over. Even though the seat was empty, the sound of soft, rhythmic breathing continued to echo from the back. It was faint, almost a whisper, but it was unmistakably there, right behind my ear. I kept looking back, expecting to see her reappear, but there was only the dark interior of my cab. My sanity felt like it was unraveling, thread by thread. I wasn't just driving a car anymore. I was trapped with something unseen. I haven't worked a night shift since that morning, and I don't think I ever will again. Every time the clock hits 2:17 a.m., I feel a sudden chill, and the faint scent of that old perfume fills the room. It's a reminder that some passengers never truly leave your car. I hope you all found this story as chilling as it was for me. If you enjoyed this mystery, please hit the like button and subscribe for more. Imagine driving down a dark highway, thinking you're almost home, only to realize you've been in the same spot for hours. Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing great today. I've got a story that will make you think twice about taking that last bus home. It starts with a veteran driver on Route 13, a 3-hour midnight shift he's done 1,000 times. But tonight, something is wrong. The dashboard clock blinks, resetting to 12 a.m. over and over, while the road ahead seems to stretch into an infinite, shadowy void. As the bus enters the first long tunnel, the air grows heavy and thick with an unnatural chill. Usually, this tunnel takes 2 minutes to clear, but now, the lights flicker rhythmically like a dying pulse. Every time the bus emerges on the other side, there are more people sitting in the back. You didn't stop, you didn't open the doors, yet there they are. They sit perfectly still, their eyes fixed straight ahead, ignoring the driver's confused glances in the rearview mirror as the engine hums a low, vibrating growl of despair. The driver, let's call him Elias, tries to radio for help, but the only sound coming through the speakers is a static hiss that almost sounds like whispering. He checks his watch, then the bus clock, and then his phone. All of them are frozen at exactly midnight. It's a chilling realization that he's no longer in a world governed by the rules of physics. He presses the gas pedal harder, desperate to see a familiar landmark. But every signpost he passes simply reads Route 13 in a font that seems to bleed into the darkness. Now the bus is getting crowded, and the atmosphere is suffocatingly quiet. You'd expect someone to complain about the delay or ask what's going on, right? But these passengers aren't normal. Their skin looks pale, almost translucent under the dim interior lights, and their breath doesn't fog up the cold windows. They don't blink, and they don't speak. They just stare at the back of the seat in front of them with an intensity that makes Elias's skin crawl. It's as if they are waiting for something inevitable to happen. Terrified, Elias decides he needs to get off this bus immediately, even if it means jumping out while it's moving. He slams on the brakes, expecting the screech of tires, but the bus doesn't slow down. He pulls the emergency lever for the doors, but they remain sealed shut, as if they've been welded to the frame of the vehicle. Outside, the landscape has become a blur of gray mist and twisted trees. He realizes he isn't just driving a bus anymore. He's a prisoner inside a metal cage traveling through a lost dimension. Every time he approaches what should be the final terminal, the road twists sharply, and he finds himself entering that same flickering tunnel again. The cycle is perfect and unrelenting. He looks in the mirror and notices his own reflection is starting to change, his eyes becoming as dull and vacant as the passengers behind him. Time has no meaning here, and the weight of eternity starts to crush his spirit. He wonders if he's already dead, or if this is a purgatory designed specifically for those who move between spots. The steering wheel feels like it's becoming part of his hands, and the seat is molding to his body. He tries to scream, but his voice is caught in his throat, reduced to a faint wheeze that no one hears. The passengers slowly turn their heads in unison, finally looking directly at him with a gaze that promises no escape. Their expressions aren't angry. They are sympathetic, which is somehow much worse. It's the look of someone welcoming a new member to a club. He is no longer the driver. He is just part of the route. The bus plunges back into the tunnel for the 1,000th time, and the dashboard clock blinks 12 a.m. once again. The journey is his life now, an infinite stretch of asphalt under a sky that never sees the sun. There is no destination, only the motion of the wheels and the silent company of the forgotten. If you ever see a bus with no destination sign late at night, please, don't try to wave it down. You might just end up on a route that never ends. The midnight bus horror. Why was the passenger manifest completely empty? A driver's true nightmare. Who was sitting in those haunted empty seats? You were never alone. What is the secret behind the ghost bus manifest? Terror on the night shift. Can you handle the truth about the invisible passengers? The haunted European bus. Why did the security cameras show no one there? Imagine looking at your security camera and seeing a completely empty bus, while your ears are filled with the sounds of a crowded room. Hello everyone, it is so wonderful to have you all back here for another chilling story. Picture yourself as a night bus driver in a quiet city. It is midnight, and you are on your usual route. You see people bored, hear their clothes rustling, and even smell the rain on them. Yet, when you check your manifest to confirm the count, it says 0. You think it is just a glitch. As you continue driving, the atmosphere inside the bus starts to feel heavy and thick. You can clearly hear people whispering in the back, the sound of shoes shuffling on the floor, and the occasional rhythmic tapping against the cold window glass. It feels crowded, yet every time you glance in the rearview mirror, you only see rows of empty leather seats illuminated by the dim, flickering cabin lights. You try to tell yourself it is just fatigue playing tricks on your mind, but the noises are far too real to ignore. Panic starts to set in, so you decide to check the live security feed on your dashboard monitor. Your heart skips a beat as you stare at the screen. The cameras show a completely empty bus. There is no one there, not the old lady you saw sitting in row 3, nor the tall man in the back corner. Yet, right at that moment, you hear a loud thud right behind your seat. It is like someone is standing right there, breathing down your neck, watching every move you make while you are trying to focus on the road. You cannot take it anymore. You pull over at a deserted bus stop, the street lamps casting long, eerie shadows on the pavement. You stand up and turn around, shouting for whoever is there to reveal themselves. Silence. The whispering stops instantly. The footsteps vanish. You walk down the aisle, checking every corner, but the bus is physically empty. Just as you're about to head back to the driver's seat, you notice something on the electronic ticket display. The letters shift and blur into a terrifying message. Chills run down your spine as the display clearly reads, "You were never alone." The realization hits you like a tidal wave. Those were not living passengers, but something else entirely. You jump back into your seat, hands trembling as you floor the gas, never looking back at the mirror again. Some things are better left unexplained in the dark of the night. Have you ever felt a chilling presence right behind you, even when you knew you were completely alone? Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a wonderful day, because today I have a story that might make you think twice before looking in your rearview mirror. It starts with a simple taxi driver named Elias, who began noticing something impossible. Every single night, as he drove through the quiet city streets, his meter would start ticking up as if someone was sitting right there in the back seat. But the seat was empty. There was no one there. Yet the fare just kept rising faster. Elias tried to convince himself it was just a technical glitch, a faulty wire, or maybe just the exhaustion of working the graveyard shift for too long. But deep down, he felt a weight in the car that wasn't there before. The air would turn cold, and the smell of old pine and iron would fill the small cabin. He tried to reset the meter, but it wouldn't budge. It was like an invisible passenger was taking the longest journey of their life, and Elias was forced to be the silent witness to this haunting, ghostly commute. He felt watched, judged, and strangely responsible for this ride. One particularly foggy Tuesday, the atmosphere inside the car changed from eerie to suffocating. The numbers on the meter were spinning so fast they became a blur of red light. Suddenly, a soft, raspy voice broke the silence from the darkness of the back seat. "Please, take me home," it whispered. Elias felt his heart drop into his stomach. He didn't want to look back, but his eyes drifted to the mirror. The seat was still empty, yet the indentation on the leather suggested someone was sitting right there. The voice gave him an address that felt like a punch to the gut today. That address wasn't just any house. It was the place Elias had spent years trying to erase from his memory. It was his childhood home, a place of joy that turned into a scene of absolute devastation many years ago. He hadn't spoken that address out loud in decades, fearing that the mere mention of it would bring back the ghosts he had buried so deeply. But now, his own taxi was demanding he return to the scene of the tragedy. He realized then that the meter wasn't tracking miles or time, but the heavy weight of his own unresolved guilt and the trauma he had fled long ago. As he drove toward the outskirts of town, the city lights faded away, replaced by the gnarled trees of his old neighborhood. Every turn felt like a step deeper into a dream he couldn't wake up from. The invisible passenger remained silent, but Elias could feel the intensity of their gaze. He started remembering the night everything fell apart. The fire, the screams, and the way he had run away while everyone else stayed behind. The shame he had carried for so long began to manifest as a physical pressure against his chest, making it harder and harder to breathe as he approached. When he finally pulled up to the curb of the old, charred remains of his family home, the meter abruptly stopped. The silence that followed was louder than any noise he had ever heard. He looked at the total fare, and it was a number that matched the exact date of the tragedy. It was a terrifying realization that reality was breaking down around him. He wasn't just a driver anymore. He was a soul being summoned to account for his past. The car door behind him creaked open, though no hand touched the handle, and the cold air of the night rushed in to meet the frozen cabin. The voice spoke one last time, no longer raspy, but sounding exactly like the sister he had lost all those years ago. "Why did you leave us?" she asked softly. Elias broke down, the tears finally flowing after years of keeping them locked away. He realized that the passenger wasn't a ghost in the traditional sense, but a piece of himself that had been waiting at that house for him to return. The meter had been running for 20 years, waiting for him to finally pay the price of his silence and face the truth of what happened that night. It was a journey into his dark soul. As the sun began to peek over the horizon, the car felt empty once again. The meter finally reset to 0, and the heavy atmosphere vanished, leaving only the scent of damp earth and old memories. Elias sat in the driver's seat, feeling lighter but forever changed by the encounter. He understood now that we can never truly outrun our past. We only carry it with us until we are brave enough to face it. The journey might be long and the fare might be high, but finding peace is the only way to finally stop the meter from running. It's a lesson in forgiveness we must learn. What would you do if your past came calling for a ride? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that dive deep into the unexplained. I'll see you in the next one. And until then, stay safe out there on the road.